Assembly Line Ninjas. I'd like to start off by saying Barakateh Hawa, Ba'ashem Yahweh Shai, Ba'ashem Rucha Welcome to another live lesson. As you heard the title of this one, Assembly Line Ninjas. And pretty much this was a title that came to me yesterday. I actually put it on the comment board of a live lesson, or actually a lesson that the young elder Karatazad of the Vegas camp put up, dealing with that movie, They Cloned Tyrone. Now, you know, when people speak about cloning, they're talking about people that look like, or that they've manipulated their genes or whatever to look like somebody else. But we know that Esau doesn't have the power over the spirit to do things of that nature. But and look like a particular character. And this is something that Esau does throughout history. You know, these different rulers around the world have been molded, their character has been shaped to pretty much, you know, mimic, you know, a particular, you know, to mimic a particular persona, so to speak. You know, like for instance, you have Hitler. You know, he was given that little mustache. You have Fidel Castro. You know, he was given the military fatigues. You know, you have these different leaders worldwide that are dressed a certain way, which is all a part of that character that they established, and then you have others that mimic that same thing. And that's pretty much what they did in that movie, They Cloned Tyrone. You know, it's pretty much a formula that Esau uses literally, you know, to make these assembly line ninjas. Now, when you read the word assembly line, the definition is a series of workers and machines in a factory by which a succession of identical items is progressively assembled. And that's pretty much what it is. You have an assembly line, you have a prototype, and then you have the ones that come after it are made or created exactly like the first one. All right. Now we have the word clone. The definition for the word clone is if someone or is a clone of another person or thing, they are so similar to this person or thing that they seem to be exactly the same as them. So it's not that it's actually the same exact person, but it's the same exact character that they're building, you know, in Jake's society, the Israelite society, so-called Negroes, Latinos, Native American Indians, to clone everybody or make everyone identical to each other. You know, this is why you have, you know, you have a blueprint. You know, and that blueprint is, you know, whether it's the Jakes that have the dreadlocks, whether it's the Jakes that wear the different colored hairs, whether it's the Jakes that are moles, or whether it's the Jakes that are bi, whether it's the, you know, Jake woman that's fat and out of shape, whether it's the Jake woman that's slim with an attitude, you know, whether it's the weave, the different colors of weave, and just, you know, in general, the whole appearance, diet, and attitude. You know, so there is a prototype of that created by Esau, you know, in the music, in the TV shows, in the movies, on these different videos, you know, and there are things that they put into the food to pretty much alter, you know, Jake, you know, in the way that they are, you know. And I was speaking with Elder Pastor Rukar earlier, and I told him how, you know, you have these different hospitals that draw blood. Every time you go in there, they're just drawing blood and drawing blood and drawing blood and drawing blood. And they're taking that blood, you know, and other things too, and they're studying it, and they're adding certain chemicals and certain different things to see how it affects that particular blood type. To see pretty much, what affects it, what destroys it, and then they concoct through the FDA, Food and Drug Administration, different chemical compounds that taste like actual foods. Added to it is the sugars, the different sugars that they make, and the different food colorings, and that at the cellular level, for some reason I can't say that word right now. At the cellular level, it destroys Jake's bodies. So it's a chemical formulated specifically for the destruction of Jake, whether it's in the things that you drink, liquors, whether it's in the food, the different chemicals in the food, flours to the seasonings to everything else, the different flavors you think is flavor. I'm going to buy, vodka, cucumber vodka, or I'm going to buy lime flavored vodka, or I'm going to buy, this particular whiskey with honey in it, or this particular, and all of that stuff is nothing but chemicals added to it to make it taste like. I don't like to drink water, but they do have these lemon waters and the lime waters and the cranberry waters and the black cherry waters. Those are all chemicals added to that to destroy you, because remember, the FDA is pretty much owned and controlled by Esau. They were a chemical company that were given the license to regulate the Food and Drug Administration. Now they might take this video down, but honestly I don't care, because the truth has to come out, and the truth shall prevail. So Psalms 82:5 says, "They know not, neither will they understand," because Esau is going to keep being the demonic robot that he was created to be. Because the Lord is using that very thing that he does to destroy him. Just like we watched the movie Oppenheimer. But that's another lesson for another time, Lord's will. It says, "They walk on in darkness. All the foundations of the earth are out of course." And they understand biblically that we are the Israelites. They understand biblically that he will not give us grace, benefits, protection. But what they don't count on are the elect, the ones that can see. All right, so let's continue on. You have something called fictitious character. A fictitious character is an imaginary person represented in a work of fiction, play or film or story. Okay, so it's an imaginary person represented in a work of fiction. Fiction is not real. When something is non-fiction, it's real. When something is fictitious or fiction, it's not real. It's an imaginary person, a representation of what Esau wanted to push out there through music, through television, and in general. Okay? So pretty much that's what they've done with Jake, and that's why you have this whole they clone Tyrone thing. It's not that they took one Jake and made a whole bunch of them off of that one genetic makeup of that one Jake, but they took that one Jake, the prototype, the Jake woman, and they made many different Jake men and women, from that prototype. The ninja with the pants sagging, drawers hanging out, grimy as hell, full of tattoos, talking shit, robbing, stealing, and you have your different ones, your drug dealers, your drug addicts, it's just an assembly line. Same thing with the women. All right. So what I want to do is we're going to go to the book of Isaiah, the first chapter first. Got a couple of verses here, and then we jump to another chapter. Isaiah 1:3, "The ox knows his owner, and the ass his master's crib. But Israel doth not know, my people doth not consider." So Jake doesn't consider who the Most High is. Jake doesn't know who their power is. They have a connection because of that zeal, but they don't know who the Lord really is. And the word for consider is the word bayan, which the word bayan, which is to consider or understanding, is also the word used for in between. Because you have knowledge and you have wisdom, but then you have understanding. So the word bayan is to discern, understand, consider. So Jake doesn't have the understanding to consider who the Most High is. And when you bring it out to them, they don't want to accept it because they are rebellious children. You know, and Esau knows how easy it is to manipulate Jake by throwing some bad individuals out there among Jake that sell out, become members, demonic ring, or whatever, you know, group they belong to to constantly manipulate Jake to stay in that docile demonic. So let's go back. And now let's read the fourth verse. Because Jake does not consider who their power is because they're being manipulated by the devil himself. You know, it says, sinful nation, a people laden with iniquity, because Jake is not subject to the laws of the Most High, even though they were given to Jake. It said, a seed of evildoers, children that are what? Corrupters. They've corrupted the right way. They've corrupted themselves. They're walking, they're not in the spirit. And when you look at the deeds of the flesh, you have adultery, you have, Moism, you have a horrible, terrible diet, you have just madness in general, which is all a part of the curses. And Esau is pushing that on Jake and then accusing him to the father. But the Lord sees. He thinks that the Most High is stupid. He thinks that the Most High doesn't see that he's manipulating things behind the scene so that he can accuse Jake so that the Most High can push Jake away and accept them. The Most High hates you. He hates you, Edomites. You are not the people of the Most High. You will never be the people of the Most High. You was rejected then, and you are rejected now and forevermore. It says, they have forsaken the Lord. They have provoked the Holy One of Israel unto anger. They are gone away. Right, and that's why during the time, because they're not going to have the hedge of the Lord around them, manipulated by the beast, because they're in that dark tunnel, in darkness. Why should you be stricken anymore? You will revolt more and more. See, so why would you be stricken anymore? Because this stricken is when the Lord is smiting you, or striking you, or beating you into these different situations you find yourself in. So why are you going to ask for more? But it says you will revolt more and more because you're going to become progressively wicked. Because you're under the influence, the spell of Esau. All right? The whole head is sick and the whole heart faint. So from head to toe, you're all corrupted. From the leaders of Jake to the followers. All right? It says, and the heart faint. Right, because the whole heart faint is a representation of Jake's mind. Jake's mind is not right, okay? Inside joke. But mind is not geared to receive the admonition, the instructions of Yahweh Bashem Yahushai. They are geared to follow the direction of Esau. Esau got him in the trick bag. He knows all about you. He knows what makes you tick. He knows what to give you. If you get a little uppity, he knows how to bring you back down to earth. If you try to get slick and try to become conscious, he knows how to put wounds and putrefying sores. And this represents all of the hardships that Jake is under. The low condition that Jake is in. Even in the book of Luke 16, where it's nations. Here Jake is low condition, and these nations, Esau takes the lion's share of it, and then these nations take the rest of it. This is why you have your Moabite or so-called Chinese restaurant neighborhoods and took over all of the majority of the businesses that Jake owned. from markets to grocery stores, bodegas, you know, and all of that, you know. It says they have not been closed, right? They have not been closed, meaning they have not been healed. There was nothing, no ointment, there were no hydrogen peroxide, you know, bandages used to seal up those wounds, which is a representation of the words of Yahweh Bashem Yahushai, because the leaders of Jake cause them to err. They push him in that direction. It says neither bound, neither modified with ointment, right? They were not patched up. So now when we go to the book of Jeremiah 2, right, and we go to verse 20, then we're going to jump around. It says Jeremiah 1:20, for of old time I have broken thy yoke. Every time we found ourselves in a condition where we were in captivity under the nation, the Lord eventually would break that yoke and free us up. One upon thy hill, the every green tree, thou wanderers playing the harlot, because we are married to the Lord. You can't just do whatever you want, Israel. Nation of Israel, so-called Negroes, Latinos, and Native American Indians, wherever you may be and wherever you may look like, as long as your lines go back to the so-called Negroes, Latinos, and Native American Indians, we belong to the Most High, Yahweh Bashem Yahushai. We don't belong to ourselves. We don't belong to nations. We can't do what we want. We have a set of rules and regulations that the Lord gave to us to follow, a guideline, instructions. And when you go outside of that, you go outside of the protection of the Most High, Yahweh Bashem Yahushai. It says, what? A noble vine. What is a noble vine? A vine of nobility is a royal line, a royal vine. You know, we come from a long line of kings, you know, of princes, of priests, of royalty, you know, the highest standard among all nations. We're going to set of rules and regulations that stand above anything that was ever created by mankind, that was inspired divinely by Yahweh Bashem Yahushai, given to us to follow, so that we would be separate from all these different nations, so that we would not be judged according to the judgments that the Lord brings upon them, so that we would not be found in conditions that they would be found in. There was a big picture. That's why we're in the condition we're in. We're in the Deuteronomy 28 condition, meaning, you know, we're under the curses of that whole chapter. And you have these devils trying to alter the curses. So no, that don't really mean that means this. That don't really mean that means that. But the simple will believe it. The prudent will not. The non-elect will believe it, and the elect will not. That's the devil's job. When you go to law, for, you know, in the devil's courts, you find loopholes, different laws that help your situation. Eventually what they do is they change things. This is why they leave everything vague, open. You know, they never give you a direct answer or a direct definition of things, because it's open to their interpretation. And it's open to amendment. They can amend whenever they want, add whatever they want. They can bring different court cases and overturn decisions that are established. They don't play by the rules. Never trust thine enemy. Right? Then it says, for those I wash thee as a seed of righteousness. Right? How then art thou turned into the degenerate plant of a strange vine unto me? How the fuck did we turn into these the heathen mentality that we've turned into over the years? That's what the Most High is saying. You know? And when you see that movie, They Clone Tyrone, you see exactly the condition that we're in as a people. Not all Israelites, but the majority of Jake is in that same. It's a prototype. And when you go to each ghetto, into each city, each state, the same exact shit, the same exact spirit You're driving down the street, another, you know, and if you're in this neighborhood, you see a different spirit. You know, everybody's grass and the bushes, everything is trimmed perfectly. You don't see no trash in the street. You don't see ninjas hanging on the corner. You don't see a liquor store and a crackhead chicken on the block. And as you're driving, you can be driving on a one street, and as you're driving, once you get to a certain point and you cross that from one block to the next, then you feel a whole different spirit, a whole different vibration. Then you start seeing trash everywhere. You start seeing abandoned buildings. You start seeing churches on the corner. You start seeing liquor stores on every corner. You start seeing crackhead chicken joints and Chinese restaurants and all the shit that's constantly killing Jake and keeping Jake in that docile, dead state. All of from the oils to the chemicals, you know, to the food that you buy, the places where you shop. Everything is tainted. Everything is distorted. Everything is geared to breaking down your system to kill you. They're trying to kill us. A slow death. It says, for though thou wash thee with thee and take thee much soap, meaning you, even if you clean yourself, yet thine iniquity is marked before me, saith the Lord Yahweh Bashem Yahushai, right? Because it says that Judah's sins are etched with a pen of diamond, or a diamond pen, you know. And then when you have diamonds, see, diamonds are not precious as far as jewelry is concerned, but diamonds are precious as far as being sold as, you know, expensive for certain things, you know, because diamonds cut. You know, you have diamond tipped bits, you know, drill bits. You have diamond saw, whether it's a chop saw, whether it's a saw, it's a jigsaw, bandsaw, a sawzall. You know, you have diamond tips that are used to make these blades, because those blades they're expensive, because that is the job of a diamond. It's used to cut. So they are precious in that sense, but they're not precious as far as having them in jewelry. All right. Now let's go to the top of this chapter. Jeremiah 2:1. Moreover, the word of the Lord saying, go and cry in the ears of Jerusalem, saying, thus saith the Lord, I remember thee, the kindness of thy youth, the love of thine espousals, when thou wentest after me in the wilderness, in the land that was not sown. Right. And this is when the Lord made us to be holy unto him, how he planted us, how he gave Moses the law, statutes, and commandments to give to us to separate us from these other nations. Right? Israel was holiness unto the Lord and the first fruits of his increase, right? Because Jacob was crying out to the Lord. All that devour him, listen good, all that devour him shall offend. Evil shall come upon them, saith the Lord Yahushai. So eventually, everything that Esau done, the other nations, is going to come back and bite them in the ass. Again, we might forget, but the Lord won't forget. Okay. All those different past lives that we've been here, the Lord hasn't forgot all that. He knows exactly what went down. That's why it says that the earth shall no more disclose her blood, because the Most High is going to bring all that out. And all this secret underhanded shit they do, like they show you in the movie, those underground factories where you have all these different scientists, you know, both Jake and Esau and other nations, you know, putting together all these different chemical compounds, whether it's in the hair products, whether it's in your moisturizers, whether it's in makeup, whether it's in your toothpaste. It's all out there. And it's what they do. But they don't come out straight out openly and say that. It's a conspiracy. But it's a conspiracy fact that they're trying to destroy us. And they are destroying us by the quality of the air, the quality of the water, the quality of the food, the quality of the environment that we're in, that oppression, the sadness, depression, the constant state of weariness. It's all caused by these things. And it's a systematic thing that has been put in place. But when you speak about it, or you talking about, and it's very easy. They hate us. Is that so hard to understand? You think that if they loved us, they would give us all this bullshit to kill us? House of Israel, this message is to you, not to the other nations. But what do? You want to turn around and give the graces that are extended to us to the other nations who don't give a fuck about us. They're all in you to them. I say fuck them. All right. Thus saith the Lord, what iniquity have your fathers found in me? Right, because the Lord didn't do anything against us for us to do that to him. Chapter, as a wife treacherously departed from her husband, so have you departed from me, O house of Israel. Because the Lord did everything. Isaiah the 5th chapter, the Lord set up a vineyard. He set up the trenches. He watered it. He nurtured it. He planted it with the choicest seed. And he said, what else could I have done to my vineyard that I didn't do? It turned into strange fruit. And I'm just merely paraphrasing. That they are gone far from me. And how do we go far from the Lord? By forsaking his law. I was mentioning how earlier, and the second one YouTube just crashed. So doing something. You go into it, it's dealing with, it says there, the temptation of Yahushai, which is when the actual spiritual demon Satan tempted. And you got to remember that he was 40 days and 40 nights fasting. And Satan didn't just appear to him on the 40th day when he was at his weakest. Satan was fucking with him the whole time, the whole 40 days. And when he had fasted 40 days and 40 nights, he was afterward and hungered. And when the tempter came to him, he said, if thou be the Son of Man, and that these stones be made bread. And it goes on to say how he told him that man shall not live by bread alone. Yahushua said, thou shalt not tempt the Lord. And the main part I want to get of this is from verse 7 down. From verse 8 down. Then the devil taketh him up into an exceeding high mountain. Exceeding high mountain is a top government, which, America is top government, so you can understand. And showeth him all the kingdoms of the world and the glory of them. And saith unto him, all these things will I give thee, if thou fall down and worship me. Why? Because it was given to him, into his power. And I believe in the book of Luke, it says that all these things were given into me, the power of them were given to me. Right? So in order for a Jake to be successful here, they have to bow down to Esau, or the spiritual demon Satan, whose physical counterpart is Esau on the earth. Okay? And so we're found that, in the world, that these Jakes are selling out to Esau. And the ones that sell out to Esau and afterwards grow a conscience, what happens is, when they try to go against or bite the hand that feeds them, then Esau makes an example of them to all the rest of those other samples that have sold out, that if they even think about doing anything, that this is going to be what's going to happen to you. Just like the buck breaking, in slavery, they would make examples of Jake, and that would rebel. And what would they do? They would buck break them in front of everybody, men, other slaves, men, women, and children, as an example to those that act stupid. This could happen to you. That's that was the attitude. For the sake of the rest of them staying in line for fear of what would happen to them. Right? Then it says, then saith Yahweh unto him, get thee hence, Satan, for it is written, thou shalt not, thou, where it speaks about that all of this power was given. Right? So now let's go real quick to, and just bear with me, like what you call more verses in Jeremiah 2, and then close the lesson out, because the point is everything. But while this is loading up, I pulled up straw man. Straw man, a person to whom a person to whom title to property or business interest is transferred for the sole purpose of concealing the true owner and or the business machinations of the parties. Right. So a straw man would be when you go and you look at your license, when you look at your birth certificate, when you look at your name, first and last name, on any governmental documentation, it's always going to be all capital letters. Just like the majority of businesses out there, when you look at it, the names are all capital letters because that represents a corporation. It's a fictitious entity, you know, and that's how they operate. They don't put things in their name; they put their things in a fictitious name, a corporation. That is a straw man of the parties. Thus, straw man has no real interest or participation, but is merely a passive stand-in for a real party. As you know, to be in front, but the real identity of the individual is hidden. I've seen Esau's controlling. That's the puppet master. All right. So now let's go there. Let's go real quick. Matthew 16. Okay, was it Matthew 16? But anyway, I try to quote it the best I can. You brothers get it. Where it says, what would a man give in exchange for his soul? If you sell your soul, you have nothing to ransom for it. You know? And that's what Jake has done in his world. They sold their soul. And some of them, when they grow a conscience, they try to, go against it, but then they end up being, made to look crazy, or deleted by way of suicide or accident or some other way. You already sold your soul. It's too late. Now, let's just end off in Jeremiah 2 and 6 now. Neither said that brought us in America. When you enter down where we get with you, and with your children, have nations changed their gods, which are yet no gods? And the answer to that is no. And the nations, their gods are nothing but idols. Have the nation changed their gods, which are yet no gods? But my people have changed their glory for that which doth not profit. Right, for crumbs, for Esau's goodies, which are riches make themselves wings. The things that are seen are temporary. But Jake loves to have it so, because they trust in oppression. It says, be astonished, O ye heavens, at this, and be horribly afraid. Be ye very desolate. So people have committed two evils. They have forsaken me, the fountain of living waters, and hewed them out cisterns, brooks that can hold no water. Is Israel a servant? Is he a homeborn slave? Why is he spoiled? And you Israelites have been spoiled. This is the people robbed and spoiled. They're all of them hid in prison houses. These different, churches and religious, institutions that you are caught up into, and also the lifestyle you live. Because for some of you that don't really go to church, your religion is your lifestyle. That rat race that you're in this world. And some of you is to, you just ain't trying to do anything with your life. You're just wasting away and just being the best ninja you could be, And it's an assembly line of ninjas, because you had Jake in the past. You had some Jakes that were like that, but every Jake wasn't like that. Today, it's getting progressive that clone Tyrone spirit. You know, they're in that whole mentality of that grimy mentality, whether they're men or women. And the children, you see them coming up at a young age being the same way, and they think it's cute, but it's not. It leads to destruction. It's a blueprint that was set up by Esau, but you're too blind to see. But that's all right, because eventually the Lord is going to get you. All right? So, an assembly line of ninjas